Hey everybody, welcome back to another installment of Deconstructive Critics. I'm your host, Chris, also known as NeoGamespark, and with me once again is my trusty right-hand man, the PathofJioFreed, also now known as Danny D's World, but hey, y'all can just call him Danny. How you been, Danny? It's been a while since we've been on this channel together.
Yes, it has, and there's been all kinds of stupidity.
So today what we're going to be giving you guys is another news breakdown. As opposed to doing individual news stories as they hit, we're just going to go back to reverting to this sort of style because it's easier to do these maybe once a week or bi-weekly or whenever we have the time. So basically this is going to be all Spider-Man themed as our last couple of videos have been. I mean, hey, who doesn't get tired of talking about New York's favorite web slinger? Danny, I think you got tired of talking about New York's favorite web slinger because you didn't even say anything.
I'm sorry, I was listening to you.
Or probably you just got stunned that people would get tired of talking about Spooderman.
Oh, totally. That's impossible. But yeah, the problem with everyone talking about Spider-Man though is that you got to take the good with the bad and the intelligent with the unfortunately very stupid.
And we seem to be getting a lot of them in truckloads.
Yes. Now, to be fair, I should qualify, while some of this stuff might be stupid, it's understandable to a degree. It's just that kind of stupid that people are running as far as they are with it.
Yes, indeed. And as you guys are aware, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the sequel to last year's Amazing Spider-Man reboot, it just finished up its filming production a couple of weeks ago. There was an event at Comic-Con where we got to learn a lot more about the movie. We actually saw a little bit of a teaser trailer. Actually, it was more than a teaser trailer. I think it was damn near 4 minutes long,
It
right?
was 4 minutes long. It was 4 minutes of footage, mostly unfinished, highly stylized. Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of plot in it. Well, there is, but there isn't. A lot of it's like narration. And because it's specifically tailored for Comic-Con, some of the narration might have been just for that trailer, as well as some of like the footage. A lot of it was just like establishing shots, scenery shots, reaction shots, the usual. But I digress. We got 4 minutes of film, which also leaked online several times and got taken down several times, only to reappear several more times.
Can't stop the internet, Sony.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it looks pretty good. Other people have said it looks like crap, but they said that pretty much anything to do with the movie looked like crap, so
It's not surprising.
yeah. And then other people had some stuff they liked, some stuff they didn't. But all in all, though, it is really rough footage, so you can't really expect it to look beautiful. There were even some storyboard shots still in there.
Yeah.
But anyways, after the hubbub of the panel and everything, we wound up entering into that dry spell where there's very little news coming out because the production has stopped, so there's really nothing coming out from the set. No more set photos, no more little nuggets to speculate over or have fun with or look at and laugh at and say, oh, that looks so cool, or oh, that looks so stupid, or oh, wow, that's funny, etc., so on and so forth. And, we're basically in that dry spell between Comic-Con and waiting for an official trailer release and, the next round of interviews and the promotional phase. And because of that, people tend to, whenever anything that's possibly news comes up, they tend to leap at it. And a lot of people run with it. And that's coming to what we're talking about today.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for summing that up. So what we're going to be breaking down for you guys today are a couple of stories that really have been running rampant all throughout the media as of late. The first thing we want to tackle is something that I'm surprised got a lot of traffic and a lot of attention, but at the same time, I'm not, considering people don't see things in context. People only see what they want to see, and that is the story about Andrew Garfield and his so-called fixation with wanting Spider-Man to be gay in this film series.
Oh, Lord.
To give you guys a little bit of a rundown what happened, basically Andrew Garfield was interviewed and he was asked about, the entirety of what he thought about the things going on in modern day, and he jokingly said that, Spider-Man why can't he be gay in the next movie? And he named, I believe it was Michael B. Jordan, the guy from Chronicle.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that why can't Mary Jane be gender bent to be a dude and Spider-Man we gave him? What would be the problem? And obviously the media, running with that, assumed that in the next film, since Mary Jane was conveniently cut out of this movie, they will gender bend her for the third Spider-Man movie, and he'd be gay with Peter Parker just because they're trying to actively get out there for the gay movement or something. Now, I found this is very funny because if anybody knows anything about Garfield in general when it comes to the Spider-Man character, he, next to, I'd say, Mark Webb, and honestly, I'd say next to Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield is the number one person on that set who knows his shit about Spider-Man. It should be no shocker to anyone that Andrew Garfield is a lifelong fan of the character. Ever since he was 2 years old, when he was 2, he dressed up as Spider-Man. He's always, it's always been his dream to play this character. And you would think that, oh, this is just that talk from the actors who are trying to appeal to the comic book fans by saying they always liked the character. But no, Garfield knows his stuff. And so when all these people ran with that story, they conveniently left out the portion where Garfield said it wasn't really anything serious. It was more of a philosophical discussion how nowadays you would see so many companies like Marvel and DC who would be taking established characters and making them gay just because. So why wouldn't they do that with Spider-Man? It was an interesting contrast because you do see characters such as Green Lantern for DC and more recently the Wolverine, Logan himself, turned gay. And now, honestly, this does differ from universe to universe, so it's not just one established thing per the character, but it does bring up a point. Why wouldn't Marvel do that for one of their bigger characters? If they're trying to champion this whole gay movement, if they're trying to talk about same-sex marriage and all this stuff, if they're trying to be very topical, which is what Marvel has been trying to do as of late. Marvel, you know, it like, say what you want about them, it's just they've really gotten very political as of late in a lot of their comics, and it, regardless of your politics, on what you think, what side of the aisle you are, nobody wants to read about that in comic books.
Oh, it gets ridiculous at times. But the thing is, to try to frame this a little bit better too, he actually later clarified that comment, what he actually said in an interview with Comic Book Resources, where he came out and said that it is indeed a philosophical question because, you know, Peter Parker is characterized by the fact that he's the outcast, the outsider. And, you know, different ways that you can portray that. Because the thing about the stereotypical nerd is that the stereotypical nerd does not exist anymore. The Steve Urkel does not exist anymore. It is no longer Steve Urkel. It is all Steve Jobs. The nerds are running the world, okay? They are on top of everything right now. Technology, science, they're all considered cool now. People have fun learning about this stuff via different means. Not so much from textbooks, but, you know, with the right person, with the right personality, they can make it very entertaining. I mean, how many people hated sitting through school, you know, science textbooks, but when they get home, they turn on Bill Nye, and there you go. But so it was a conversation about how do you make someone the outsider, and he said that is one way that you can approach that, and he found it interesting that no one had, even in any other universe. But especially considering the fact that Spider-Man technically doesn't really, you know, stand for anybody, or doesn't really exclude anybody. He stands for everybody. He's inclusional, you know, so there's really, like, nothing against the character for them to have done that at some point in some other universe. The rest of it was a joke. The entire reason he chose Michael B. Jordan, too, is because his initials are, ironically enough, MJ.
Yep.
It was a joke. I mean, for crying out loud, the next part of his statement saying that it's even better because they'll have interracial bisexuality. If you couldn't tell right there that he was joking, then you have absolutely no sense of humor. I'm sorry. If you seriously thought that he was being serious when he said that, wow. But sadly, a lot of people have run with that, and even after he issued his clarification, they still ran with that, even eventually bringing it before Stan Lee, trying to get him to condemn Andrew Garfield's statement, which he did, again, not being aware that he had even said it, so of course not being aware that it had been clarified. And of course, everyone then tried to run with that video. Now, he didn't necessarily bash Garfield at all. He just was not fond of the idea, and he made that clear. But again, it was a joke in the first place, so why everyone's making this big deal about it, I don't know.
It's mind-boggling. But then again, considering the people who are doing the quote journalism for this movie, it's not surprising because more than I think any other film franchise, I've noticed that this series in particular has had so much in the rumor mill department. Out of everything you could think of, you would think Star Wars, nah. You would think Star Trek, nah. James Bond, no. But when it comes to Spider-Man, it seems that everybody just latches on to whatever minute, minuscule thing possible and just run with it. Not necessarily telling you the truth about it, just trying to hype something up to make it grandiose, something that it wasn't even in the first place. And that is, of course, in regards to a lot of the, quote, confirmed things happening for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm not going to get into specifics, but y'all remember how everyone was saying that, oh, this is confirmed because this happens, that is confirmed because this. They were taking things that literally had no context whatsoever surrounding them. It would just be a random picture of set people, and they would say these guys are gonna play this character because they are perched ever so deeply in this angle. One of our fellow collaborators on one of our podcasts that we do on another channel, known as Young Rods, we were actually all talking one night, and it was all in regards to when Mark Webb was tweeting photos of the set. And we just thought it was funny that since so many people would like to run with the fact that every single week a new villain is confirmed, what if Mark Webb tried to make a joke that he just dropped his breakfast on the floor, which happened to be a jelly sandwich, and then he just takes a picture on it and says, I wonder what that is. And then already you got people saying, Carnage confirmed because red jelly on the floor.
The funny thing is that a few days later, he actually did indeed post a picture of two guys in animal costumes with the caption, thinking of some new villains, and people actually did, including so-called journalists in the entertainment department, climbed all over that trying to figure out what villains they're playing.
And it was a dude in I think one guy was in a zoo animal outfit.
Yeah, one guy was in a gorilla suit. The other guy, I think, was like in a giant yellow chicken suit. It was really ridiculous, and that caption, you could tell he was baiting them at that point. And the second I saw that, I was like, oh, I love this, and I love that he's doing this. The sad part is that I know people are going to try to take this seriously, and they did not disappoint me. But again, now that we're in the dry spell, we're right back to that mentality. I mean, before we had this constant influx of information, and it could be kind of overwhelming, and then things finally started to slow down a little bit. People got into the pace of things. The rumors stopped flying so frequently and getting so ridiculous until near the very end, where pretty much everyone claimed to have a source inside the studio who was telling them exactly what would happen in the movie, which was then later confirmed to be false by later things that would be revealed, that their source would then say, oh no, I was wrong about that. It got ridiculous. But now we're back in, as I said, we're in the dry spell, and we're back to the original mentality where every single tiny little nugget is vital. And to that end, there have been two villains that have been supposedly confirmed.
Yeah, more villains.
Yes. More villains, and of course, it's the exact same two villains that you would expect everyone to jump all over being confirmed at the slightest indication.
It's the exact same villains, villains that people have been saying that they're going to do this in every other movie. It's just, go ahead.
Yes, apparently everyone and their grandma is running with the notion that Venom and Carnage have been confirmed.
Based on...
Well, Venom has been confirmed based on a poorly worded MTV article in which the author, writing an op-ed piece for why he thinks the actor who originally portrayed Flash Gordon and Sam Raimi... Flash Gordon, I'm sorry. Wow. Flash Thompson.
Damn, child.
Crossing over here. Major crossover.
Gordon.
Flash Thompson in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man series should play either Eddie Brock or even play a Flash Thompson Sr. and become Venom. It was frankly kind of a ridiculous, almost fanboyish piece, but because he used the term casting call in context of this article, specifically saying, I believe, something along the lines of, I know it seems quite early to be putting out a casting call for Eddie Brock, but I think that so-and-so should play the role. A lot of people thus assumed that that meant that they were indeed, the studio was putting out a casting call for Eddie Brock / Venom in The Amazing Spider-Man 4. Therefore, he was guaranteed confirmed for The Amazing Spider-Man 4. And it's all because of that poorly worded article where if you actually go and read it, not only does it become clear that it's not a confirmation whatsoever, but a fan pitch, more or less, but the articles that he cites regarding the Venom movie still possibly being a thing cites merely that the writers of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 are fans of the idea and wouldn't mind penning a Venom film. And that Avi Arad has revealed that they do have the basic storyline that they want to do mapped out, but Avi's version does involve Eddie Brock. So that, I think, also helped contribute to the rumor. But it also kind of dispels this notion that they're just going to grab Flash or even Harry and stick them in the suit.
Yeah.
Or at least that's not what they want to do. So there's that. They really want to go back, and they really seem to want to try to do Venom right. And I do give them props for that, but that in no way is indicative that he's guaranteed for Part 4. It just means they want to do him at some point.
When it comes to Venom and Eddie Brock, you know, some people like Venom, some people don't like Venom. I'm cool with the idea of them doing Venom at some point. But it sort of does bring up this question that I'm really questioning amongst the community. It's that, why are people wanting to get Venom in this series so soon when they're complaining that too much is already happening in this one movie?
Oh, it's more than just the one movie, too. People want Venom. And by Venom, I mean Venom the suit, not even necessarily Venom the character as portrayed by Eddie Brock's symbiosis. They want him in this movie so bad that they're willing to have them jump straight to Flash as anti-hero Black Ops Venom, or to jump to taking inspiration from the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon and having Harry Osborn become Venom.
Oh, God.
They just want to see him in the suit. They genuinely... I have expressed this belief before, that so many people in the fan base don't really know a thing about Eddie Brock. There's a lot of people who actually think that what Sam Raimi portrayed in terms of his story is accurate. It was just the personality was a bit off. That actually could not be further from the truth. Eddie Brock was actually a far more complex character. He also did not work at the Bugle. He was not a photographer. He was an investigative journalist for the Globe, which was the Bugle's competitor. But I digress. The point is, though, it's like people just don't really care too much about the character so much as they care about the drooling, big-toothed, hulking suit. They're going to get a repeat of Spider-Man 3 if they do that. Even if it looks right, it's still not going to be Venom. It just won't. But I don't think people are thinking when they scream for that. I really don't.
I think when it comes down to it, at any rate, it just comes down to what people saw on TV when they grew up with it, you know? They see that, oh my God, this character was really popular when I came home from school, so I want to see him in a movie as badly as possible. Well, look what they did. They gave us this character who is basically exactly what we wanted, but he's not Brolic. Oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. But it does bring up an interesting question, though. You know, with so many people clamoring towards Venom, Danny, so many people wanting Venom, I seem to see a lot more people clamoring towards another character who, frankly, would not exist without Venom being introduced.
Well, yes, and that's where we come to the next issue. Apparently, Carnage needs to be in these movies, and supposedly has been confirmed. But he needs to be in these movies just because. That is pretty much the extent of the logic behind that. Because he is cool and freaky, we need to have him on the big screen. Now, I did a breakdown of this quite a while ago, why I don't think he's going to be on the big screen ever, and I still stand by that. I really don't think he is. And why, even if he did make it on there, he would not be done properly. But again, a lot of people don't care. But that's because a lot of people don't understand that Carnage can't be in a movie, because a lot of the maximum amount of exposure they have had to Carnage is, again, like a lot of people who seem to be citing everything wrong with this movie and everything wrong with every choice and who needs to be in the next movie and so on and so forth, they seem to be getting the majority of their information from the 1990s animated series. Wherein the worst Carnage did was apparently suck someone's life energy out of them and then leave them passed out.
Oh, God. I'm okay. I'm good. I'll live.
Okay. How do I explain this? All right. At one point, and here's the most bizarre thing about this, it started in a forum. And it started in a superhero hype forum where someone had said that there was a big name actor who had been on the set who had not been announced as playing a character who was supposed to be a big secret. And the reason they knew this is because they knew someone who worked on the project at the time and saw him there working. Now, this, of course, could have been anyone, and it could have been anything, and it could have even been plain BS. But then someone produced a picture of Jim Carrey giving them a hug while they were standing on the set for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, the thing is, when you frame this picture properly, they're in a crowd surrounded by other people, so it's not like they were on the set, they were actually in the crowd watching the filming. But Mr. Carrey is seen giving this person a hug. It was in early March, so everyone's all bundled up, but see, in early March, they were doing filming for Ravencroft, the Ravencroft Institute, and that's got people speculating that because it's Jim Carrey and because it's Ravencroft, he therefore has to be playing Cletus Cassidy, a.k.a. Carnage. And so people are saying that this is proof Carnage is eventually going to show up at some point. Now, I've got my doubts about that. I mean, I can understand how that. I mean, I can understand saying that that's a possibility, and in a way, it is. Anything's possible, but there are people running with it now saying it's confirmed when even the person who originally came up with that theory has not said that he is confirmed to be playing Cletus Cassidy. But everyone and their grandma is running with that as confirmed, 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 confirmed. And now, he's going to be him. And I've actually seen people actually argue that, skip Venom, just go straight to Carnage. And this is where we get into whether or not that's possible. There are actually people advocating that they completely skip Venom altogether and use the Ultimate Spider-Man version of Carnage and then have the symbiote somehow created that way, even though that symbiote only existed because of Peter's merging with the Venom symbiote in that universe and having it affect his blood, and then just have that symbiote jump onto Cletus Cassidy, and then we can have Carnage.
Nope.
They've even been okay with it grabbing Gwen. I've actually seen that, the Gwen Carnage.
What?
Yeah, honestly the most hated incarnation of Carnage, possibly the most hated incarnation of any villain in the Ultimate Spider-Man line, and done in the most hated means possible by just grabbing Gwen Stacy and having it possess her. It's like that's seriously what they wanted to put on the screen just so they can have Carnage.
It just amazes me. It really does. I mean, I'm in pretty much all agreements with Danny here in the case when it comes to Carnage, because when it comes to Carnage, screw Carnage itself. When it comes to Cletus Cassidy, I don't think there's gonna be any way, shape, or form that they are gonna be accurately able to portray his character, considering who he is. Cletus Cassidy. Oh, I'm gonna save you guys time for the explanation. Cletus Cassidy in a PG-13 Spider-Man movie do not fit. Okay, Cletus Cassidy, if they wanted to do justice to that character, and I mean 100% like the comics in terms of his core character, his personality, who he is, you're looking at an R rating guaranteed. No arguments whatsoever. No negotiations to try to dumb it down. It'd honestly be the biggest stretch in the world for them to put him in a PG-13 Spider-Man movie, because even then, if you try to have Cletus Cassidy on there in a sick, demented fashion, it just would not flow for this MCU. Because the thing is, with all of Marvel's films as of late, they all have pretty much the same vibe, the same tone. You know, they're not overly lighthearted and bright. They do have a bit of depth and they have a bit of darkness going on in there, you know, because dark stuff does happen in these series. So it would make no sense for them to go from this pretty balanced sort of universe of storytelling for two movies, and then they completely jump to this completely dark and gritty for the third one, and then back to the fourth one. It wouldn't make sense to go from PG-13 R, which no explanation whatsoever, PG-13. And you got to consider it from Marvel's perspective as well, because what sense is there to marketing Spider-Man, this guy who's always been the everyman character from kids to adults? What sense would there be to market this film based off this character, Cletus Cassidy, to children? Like it or not, part of the reason why the MCU movies made a lot of money was because of children. You know, kids love these characters. Kids go out, they see it, they buy the toys, they watch the movies, they buy the Blu-rays, all that stuff. So even in that sense, there is no way you're ever going to see them do... You say something, Danny?
Well, yeah, if they really want to get an idea of why Cletus Cassidy Carnage doesn't really work in a Spider-Man film, which I also find highly ironic, because a lot of the same people who said that the reason that The Amazing Spider-Man failed is because Spider-Man is not a place for dark storytelling and to try to be too dark, and yet they want Carnage.
I just thought of that,
Yeah, IGN, I'm looking at you. It boggles the mind, but if you really want an idea of how screwed up in the head Cletus Cassidy is, there's a comic out there called Carnage Mind Bomb, and in that it actually explores his psyche, how he thinks, why he does what he does. He actually talks about his childhood. Like, when he was a kid, his favorite movie to watch was the Zapruder film. The Zapruder film, for those who don't know, is the investigative footage, mind you, of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and it involves seeing it from multiple angles, seeing it slowed down, seeing it zoomed in. So even as a child, his favorite movie was watching the graphic murder of a man. He killed his own parents and disposed of the remains in the garbage disposal, for crying out loud. He is a very... and this is all before he ever got that suit, okay? He is a very, very messed up individual. And then he gets these superpowers on top of that, and that's what makes him dangerous. Now, granted, there are ways where maybe, and I mean maybe, if they cheat, and by cheat I mean like not actually see what he does and only like see the results, and even then they'd have to cheat on showing you the results, they might, and I mean still might, be able to eke down the violence to maybe a PG-13, but the dialogue alone, if you read that and how he thinks and how he talks, that alone, plus the level of violence and the dark atmosphere, would still probably be enough to push it up to an R rating. I really don't see a PG-13 happening.
Again, anything is possible when it comes to this series. Who knows? Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we might see Venom at some point. Maybe we might see a watered down Carnage that's somehow, in some way, shape, or form, maybe not my lifetime, faithful to the character. Who knows? But then again, you guys, you gotta take a moment and step back from all of your fantasies and be realistic on what you want to see in these movies. And no, we're not speaking the fact that, oh, it's got to be grounded and nitty-gritty. No, we're just speaking in terms of what they want to do, in terms that would make sense for the story, not just seeing your wildest fanboy dreams come to life. I mean, they've pretty much got a story structured out that would be told over multiple movies. And, you know, that's kind of something that's funny. It seems to me that the more and more they introduce characters to not just necessarily the movie, but the universe, the more people get pissed off about it. But then again, Marvel can go ahead and introduce characters at the wazoo who have maybe, I don't know, 120 seconds runtime in a respective movie, and no one bats an eye.
Oh, more than that, Marvel can actually go ahead and change who created someone, and nobody bats an eye.
In Whedon we trust.
Yeah, but they go ahead and tweak something so simple as Connors and Richard Parker were lab partners at Oscorp, and everyone just loses their minds.
Lose their shit, man! I can't believe it. These characters who I've never even read about. I can't believe they're lab partners.
Yep, it's ridiculous stuff like that. And then of course you have the people who expect these movies to be all episodic and wrapped up by the end, who are claiming plot holes that aren't there because they're supposed to be arcing into the next movie. These are character arcs. These are story arcs. The comics did that often. Peter oftentimes, when dealing with a specific problem, would actually wind up facing more than one villain before he finally got it solved. This is actually very much comic book storytelling here. Yeah. It's a serial story rather than episodic. I don't know how people miss that, but they do.
But at any rate, I guess that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about today on our DCC News breakdown, from Andrew Garfield wanting to make Spider-Man gay to the inclusion of a couple of symbiotes. Hey, who's to say what'll happen in this film series? Well, I guess that wraps up this video. Till next time, you guys, I'm NGS signing off from DCC. For Danny Dement and NGS, we will catch you guys later.
See ya.